Me and Mindy were talking before, and looks like this is the 21st year that Mindy's put on this conference. And so for, I guess, the first 10 years roughly, it was under Bridge Builders, her organization. And then in 2013, 2014 was when the Guardian Institute was founded. And I've been doing this conference through the Guardian Institute ever since. So it looks like for about 11 years. And so that's kind of a big deal. And and so pretty neat that 21 years later, we're still getting 100 guardians across the state of Washington gathering for this conference. And so, hope you're excited to learn and ready to learn. As far as the videos for this for these sessions go, we'll be recording everything, and we'll give you an option to look at the recordings afterwards. And so, let's say something happens where, gosh, that dang internet isn't working, or I'm having a hard time with your connection. We'll have an option for you to check out that video after the fact to make sure that you get credit for it. Last thing before we jump into things is there will be technical issues probably throughout the conference because we've got 100 people with 100 different devices with 100 different internet connections, and so sometimes things might come up for you that that aren't ideal. What I'd ask you to do is to not use the chat. And so, as you'll see on Zoom, we've got this chat button down here. Ask you not to put technical issues into the chat. If you have technical issues, if you would go actually into the vFairs platform, and in the chat function there's technical support where you can talk to somebody and they can help troubleshoot things with you. You know, and so that's just something I encourage you to do so that what can happen is if this becomes like a technical support forum over here, it can be really distracting for the speaker, can be really distracting for the rest of the audience, especially knowing that most issues tend to be specific to device or internet connection for the individual. Sometimes it can be for the entire conference, but if that happens, we'll keep a pulse on it. And so let's jump into our first session with Mindy. And so Mindi Blanchard founded Bridge Builders in 2003 as a certified professional guardian agency located on the North Olympic Peninsula. The agency currently consists of 3 certified professional guardians, an office manager, and a bookkeeper. In 2013, she founded the Guardian Institute to support and assist professional and lay guardians with the challenges of guardianship. Over the years, she has provided presentations at Washington State conferences, National Guardianship Association conferences, and international events such as the World Conference on Adult Guardianship in 2014 and the World Conference on Adult Capacity in Scotland in 2021. She is dedicated to improving the perception and standards of professional guardianship. I'd like to pass the mic over to Mindi Blanchard as she discusses a discussion on succession planning.
Thank you, Luke. I want to also tell everybody Luke is the person who makes this continue to happen. For a long time, my staff and I put together these conferences, but as the business has grown, we just are not able to do that. And we've been very fortunate to have someone, Luke specifically, to put these together and make it so much easier on the rest of us. I know it's a lot of work because I've done it myself. So be sure and thank him somewhere along the way. Okay, so I decided to have a discussion in succession planning because, well, I'm looking at that myself. I've had Bridge Builders for going on, well, it's about, it's over 20 years now. And while I'm not really interested in retiring, I'm certainly not getting any younger. And I want Bridge Builders to continue after I'm no longer able to do the work. And what I'm finding is that it's not a simple thing. So I thought there are many others out here, and what I'd like to do is ask you, and to use your little hand thing, how many of you actually have a succession plan? And I can't Actually, I can't see the hands, um, which is annoying, but oh well. Why don't, and I can't, hey, Luke, I can't see the chat either, and I had it before.
Okay. Yep. If you go down to the bottom of the screen, there should be of the Zoom screen. There's a chat, little icon down there, and you want to. Oh, not there, not there. So if you're on your PowerPoint right now, if you go over to Zoom, so the Zoom browser where the video is and all that.
I have no idea how to do that.
Okay. Um, well,
Sorry.
what I'm happy. No, that's fine. So
Oh,
what?
wait a minute. Hold on. Let me try here. Here it is. Okay, got it. I wonder how I'm going to be able to do this both ways. Here we go. Okay, now I can see. Um, okay, so I know that down at the bottom, there's a way to raise your hand. If you can raise your hand if you already have a Zoom succession plan. And I am not seeing anything, so it wouldn't surprise me. Uh, Congrats.
So you got 5 people raising their hands.
Oh, okay, because I'm not seeing it where I'm at, so thank you.
Mhm.
Well, at least we have five, so maybe you can give us some real clues too. Um, I'm finding it's not a simple thing. Everyone needs a succession plan. I doubt any of us want to put our clients in a position where there's no one to pay their bills, make their medical decisions, keep up with the deluge of paperwork that comes with our job. Um, and bad things can happen. Health issues, chronic or life-threatening, unexpected death. There have actually been, I think, in the 20 some years, I've heard of a couple instances where a guardian just didn't wake up in the morning. Um, Guardian could be an accident. There could be a business failure for whatever reason. Um, you know, And some of us will want to retire someday, some sooner possibly than others. I'm not interested in retiring anytime soon myself, but I also see the need for preparing my staff for the day that I do retire. So, of course, old age is always 15 years older than I am. I love that because I kind of feel that way. And I'm sure others probably too. And another one is 3 immutable facts. You own stuff, you will die, someone will get that stuff. And it's up to us to determine how that someone gets that stuff. So the time to start thinking about succession planning is now. I don't care if you're in brand new business. I don't care if you're if you've had your business for a while and figure, you still have 20 years left on you. Um, we all need to be looking at this and putting things into place now, because if something unexpected happens, it's our clients who suffer. So I already asked how many had, there were about 5, and I think that's great. If you could put in the chat um, just kind of a snapshot of what kind of succession plan you have in place, that would be wonderful. My goal in this is to glean information from you, questions, information, and put together afterwards something that we can put on the Guardian Institute website so that you can go back and look at those types of things that we've discussed and get some ideas about what you would either like to do or need to do, um, because it's easier to work on it earlier in small increments than to be faced with it and having to try and figure out how to make a disaster, get through a disaster. Um, are currently working on a succession plan. I am. I don't. I'll let Luke tell me how many hands because I'm not able to see that. If there are any.
I'm saying 4. They're coming in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we got a good number.
Well, that's good to
14.
hear. That's good to hear because uh, again, we all need to be doing that. And even if you're brand new CPGC, you need to be looking at that possibility and you may not even know where to start at that point. That's okay. But it's important to start thinking about this early so that, because in my mind, number one, I want my business to succeed after me, but probably more importantly, is here we have all these vulnerable adults. What happens when the person who's key to making sure their bills get paid and stuff um, is no longer there? And how to navigate all of that. There's no one size fits all for succession planning, because each business has its own unique business model. Um, it's real easy as a guardian to think, oh gosh, we're all CPGs and we all have the same business, but there's a difference between CPGC business and your unique business model. And it really depends on what county you live in, uh, what area of the city maybe that you live in. It depends on a whole lot of nuances of what part of the state you live in, um, as to what your business model looks like, what your business preferences are. So here's a few that I dreamt up. I'm sure it's not the only one. Is what I call solo practice, the lonely only, doing everything by oneself. I think there are a number of people who do that as a solo practice, and it works very well for them. I'm guessing they limit their practice so that they don't get overwhelmed. And um, and then what I call the not so lonely, and I'm just guessing on this because I haven't actually talked to anybody about this, but possibly hire support such as care managers, bookkeepers, etc., or any variation. So we have solo practice that is just one person running, doing, being responsible for everything. Then there's the CPGC agency, where it's a minimum of 2 CPGs and one type of agency, and I'm kind of it's an observation on my part, and I could be wrong, but it looks like there are CPG agencies out there where each CPG, there's 2 CPGs, and they each have their own clients, but they share overhead costs and then possibly cover for each other so one or the other could take vacation time or something like that. I'm not saying any model is better or worse than any else. It's whatever works for you. And then there's another one too where, and I didn't put it on here, where it's a husband and wife team, and they become an agency and as a husband and wife team. It's kind of, and one may do, let's say, one may do more of the bill paying and client management, and the other may do more of the uh, uh, I don't know, clearing out people's homes or whatever. There's also CPGC agency where CPGs work as a team, sharing the responsibility for all clients, which is what my agency is. I don't know, I've not run into another agency that is like mine, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. But it works well for us. And then there's the business structure, because depending on your business structure, you've got to look at things differently too. So there's sole proprietor. These are the ones that I could come up with. There may be more, and if there are, put it in the chat. Sole proprietor, which would be primarily the solo practice, the nonprofit corporation, which I know there are a number of nonprofit guardian agencies out there. For-profit corporation, there's two subs of LLC and an S Corp, and don't ask me the difference because I haven't a clue. I can tell you mine's an S Corp. But past that, I don't know what the difference is. But I'm just kind of giving you an overview about the differences of the different business structures, which makes a difference as to how to approach succession planning. So if you were to get extremely ill or die tomorrow, how would this affect your clients? And I've already kind of mentioned that. And how long would it take for your successor to get access to client funds? And that's a concern I have. I can kind of set something up, but because it's a legal kind of mechanism, it takes some doing sometimes to be able to switch. There's paperwork and there's all kinds of things, so it's not necessarily a quick process. How will your successor ensure that client bills are paid until this new signing authority is changed? That is one that I don't have a clear answer for it, but maybe some of you do. Again, put your comments in the chat, because I was hoping to be able to see the chat while I'm talking, and I'm not able to do that. And I don't. So, Luke, could you?
Yeah. Yep. So, so Elizabeth shared that this business is so challenging that at times I've wondered if I'm working myself to death.
Yes, I believe that. Are there any others?
That's what we have right now.
Okay. So, and you can feel, and there's a lot of self-care that needs to come into that, and that's a whole different talk. But we're very giving. We as guardians, we go into this because we're very giving people, and we have a passion for what we do. But it's also important to take a step back, and that's really hard to do. But I certainly understand that part. Okay. And who will make the medical decisions for medically fragile clients if something happens to you? How long will it take for your successor to get authority? I'm going to come back to that a lot, because I know how long it takes to get it set up in the first place. Who will run the business operations, which is somewhat different than they mesh together, but the business issue is different than the guardianship issue. So it's important to know to think about those and to try and put things into place. And that's why I want to discuss this, or bring it up at least, because if we share with each other, not solutions necessarily, but questions. Because I'm always good at asking questions. I've been talking with the attorneys I work with. I've actually reached out to business law attorneys, and I'm just still in the very beginning of all of that. but I have no problems digging around and seeing if I can find some ways of making that all happen. So here are some options. Selling a business. Some people think, well, I'll just sell my guardianship business. Um, when I think of that, it kind of scares me because I'm not. There was one a number of years ago, I think in Spokane, that ended up being just a total disaster. And this is where the Guardian board made a regulation because the people who bought the business were not certified professional guardians, but the certified professional guardians were employees in the business, and it did not go well. So the CPGC put in this regulation 412. Um, a certified professional guardian and conservator may choose to sell all or substantially all of the guardianship and or conservator practice to another certified professional guardian or conservator. So they've made it so you have to sell it to a certified professional guardian or conservator, not somebody who doesn't know what the responsibilities are, including goodwill, subject to the following guideline. To the extent that the sale of the practice contemplates a substitution of guardian and or conservator for any of the guardian and conservator's current clients, court approval with notice to all individuals subject to guardianship and or conservatorship and all notice parties shall be obtained at least 60 days before completing the sale, regardless of whether any sale or transfer occurs. The guardian and conservator remain subject to all these standards with respect to any individuals the guardian and conservator is appointed for, including the duty to ensure continuity of care until the guardian and conservator is discharged by the court. I'm not sure, other than notifying the guardian board, which makes sense. Sometimes you don't have 60 days. Sometimes something happens. And so this may be the ideal, but in practice, I'm not sure that it's going to work out so well. I don't know if anybody's tried this yet. I have no idea, but this is what is in the regulations. Another thing you need to be concerned with, because most of us who are guardians, we end up being business owners. And there's a difference between being a business owner and being an employee. A business owner has what is called skin in the game, meaning if something goes south, the buck ends with the business owner. We have more to lose than an employee could, in theory, can go and get another job. But a business owner, this is their bread and butter, and so it makes it very challenging to try to figure that out. And I have to be mindful of that with my own employees as we're navigating this whole thing as well. Because while they're very dedicated and no question, I'm so pleased with the staff that I've had over the years and the staff I currently have. But they're not the business owner. And so I have to be mindful of that and try to figure out, how am I going to transition this? And that's where we go into transitioning the business. My goal, and I don't know if anybody else has this goal, you might put it in the chat if you are looking at this possibility, is where the owner slowly fades out over a period of time. I'm hoping if I do this right and I still have my health, that over time I can transition it so that my employees, the structure includes my employees taking over and running the business. Now, I'm saying that generally speaking, but we have corporate issues. Again, there's that business stuff, and I have to try and figure out a way for that to happen.
And and Mindy, there's a number of comments if you'd like me to share. Um, and so Koya had shared, and this was prior to you mentioning phasing out, but she said, as a sole practitioner, I'm simply not taking cases any longer and basically slowly winding down the cases I currently have. Also working with my attorney to transfer cases as triannual report time when possible. It's difficult in that 90% of my cases are Medicaid. Um, Jason commented, Koya, I'm doing the same. Summer shared, are you aware of any options for a guardian to take a temporary leave of absence for short-term medical disability? Um, there's more if you'd like me to read, or we can come back to them.
Right. Well, I'm going to comment on that, though. I think that's a great issue to bring up. And I don't know the answer to it, but I think it's worth delving into and trying to figure out a way that that could so that I think if we work together and talk to each other, that we can come up with, this may be idealistic, but this is the way you start things, is to come up with a method so that there is that sort of thing. If somebody ends up, let's say, with cancer, chemotherapy is not quick and fast, and you really can't function while you're in the process of it. But at the other end, you want to continue to do what you do. And so to be able to figure out a way where you could temporarily do that. And it's going to take some thought, and possibly even approaching the guardian board, but also approaching the local courts as well. And the local financial institutions, if uh, so. And as we go on, I'm going to share what kinds of things I'm already doing. But I think that's a great comment. So go ahead, Luke.
Wendy shared that all the attorneys know me and know I am not taking any new guardianships. It is the same for almost all the guardians I know. Um, and then Jamie had shared, the UGA has added the role of successor guardian to replace standby. And if it's a professional to professional transfer, some courts will simply issue new letters. What the law doesn't contemplate is having a successor who is a lay guardian step, um, whoops, sorry, um, lay guardian step into that role without a court visitor appointment and investigation. Uh,
And I'm glad Jamie pointed that out. That'll be something to look at.
and
Go
then
ahead.
Jason shared, DSHS is refusing to pay guardian fees with me at an accelerating rate. They do not explain why, and to the point that I have no interest in taking any DSHS clients. If I would hand them all back to the court today, I would.
Okay, any others?
None pertaining to that.
Okay. So, you know, my goal is to try and transition the business. Um, instead of just outright selling it. I see problems with just saying, oh, uh, somebody's going to purchase this business. And I don't care if you've worked in the business, it looks very different. I was talking with actually a retired CPGC who I don't know when she actually retired, but she sold her business to one of her employees. And one comment she made was, it didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked. And it was because I had assumed that the person buying the business was paying more attention than it became obvious she had. The person buying the business had made a lot of assumptions that uh, um, caused caused the trend the buying of the business to be more difficult than it could have been. So it can be, again, that kind of goes back to the part of where the employee has a different view of what the owner does, what the owner's responsibilities are, uh, and that kind of thing. So that's, I think that is partly what can happen. And I'm not saying that, should the day come, if I successfully transition out, that my employees who will take over won't have some culture shock in the way of all of a sudden whoever is the owner of the business, because what I learned the hard way, because I started with a business partner and we were a 50-50 partnership. And after a few years, we had some issues and we couldn't agree on how to move forward. Is when you're 50-50, you can't do anything. You can't move forward, you can't move backward, and that is death to a business. My business partner, ultimately, I bought her out, and because I had the passion, I had an idea of how I wanted the business to look at some point, and and but it was extremely painful for both of us, which but it you can't have uh you can't just have like a 50-50 thing, because it just has a potential for being a huge problem. um it's so, and I think that that backup plan part two is, like Jamie said, there's this successor guardian uh, possibility. I don't know how that would look in real life, but to be able to have connections, and that's part of my goal in all of this, is we guardians need to be talking to each other and figuring out, how can we make this work, even if it's not people in the same geographical area. If it's a temporary kind of thing, how can we make something like that work? So let's say somebody who's out having cancer treatment or something, or they have a surgery and they're going to be out for several weeks or months, to be able to know that their business is going to be there when they get back. And that's not an easy thing to come up with. I'm not trying to think that it's warm and fuzzy, or it's going to be, it probably will be somewhat messy. It's just the way it's going to be.
Hey,
So
Mindy.
CP, oh, do you have some others?
I have some new activity in the chat. So Debbie had asked, how does one assess the value of a CPGC business?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay. We've got Jay shared, we've been through both the purchase process and the process of simply succeeding in existing agency. And the processes were more lengthy than difficult. Regarding breaks for us CPGCs, because we're an agency, we name multiple people in our orders, so either of them have authority. That way we aren't abandoning anything if we take a break. Um, he shared, perhaps current guardians who wish to simply have a guardian with desire of space or space to take clients aboard could be open by region, would be able to be handed cases. I don't want to be accused of selling people. I would imagine there would be a large pool of clients that guardians would be willing to transition without fees attached. And then just the last comment from Jason, how many here would take on new clients today? And just asking in the chat. And then one more, but if you want, I don't know if you want to comment on any of that.
No, just keep going.
Okay. Jamie shared individual guardians partner with each other as backup, and some partner with an agency. It's identified in the court pleadings the same as the standby was. Individual guardians who are retiring usually just start transferring cases, to other guardians as they can, or they stop taking on new cases. And that's it.
Okay. And these are all great, is all wonderful information. I'm, for everybody, it's going to look different. But I think that if we can get some common ground with it, it'll make easier. And I'd love to talk with Jamie and others who have put language in their orders, because I'm not quite sure how to do that at this point. And I'll move on because I'll talk to you about the challenges we've had, even though I have 3 guardians in my office, where the challenges lie as well. So, um, but I think we should all work together to develop backup plans for our businesses and for our clients. And and here's some of the ways that I have started, and feel free to jump in, but I've started having periodic business meetings with my staff. And what I've done is and one of the key questions is ask them what do they need to know? What do they feel they need me to teach them? Because from my point of view, I have uh, ideas of what I should teach my staff, of what I do, that maybe they're not aware of as the boss, but their perspective is totally different. So when they look at me, they say like, "Can I shadow you when you go and, let's say, set up a financial set up a guardianship account at the bank? Can I, how do we work? How do we go through work all of this?" And frankly, every bank's different. I know some guardian agencies only use one bank. We don't. We have one primary bank, but if a client has, this is a rural area, and so if a client has an account at a different bank, we typically just convert it to a conservator account at the same bank. Every bank has their own requirements. Some are easier to work with, some are a real nightmare. Then you talk about the investments and all the different kinds of investment companies that have to be, that you have to do, and the quantity of paperwork and how they go about that. um, it's pretty complicated, and having done this over 20 years, I can kind of, at least with the banks, I can tick off on my fingers what each bank requires, because my goal is to make it as least painful as possible. With the financial institutions, with the investment companies or places like USAA, um, it seems like it depends on who you talk to at the place. Some make it easier and some make it worse. So, but my employees over time, I want them to understand how to navigate that kind of stuff. So one thing that you can do right away is write down the tasks that you do daily, monthly, and annually, and for both the business and for the clients. And of course, with every guardianship business, it's going to be different. It's going to be somewhat different. It's going to be somewhat the same. It's going to be somewhat different. There are certain nuanced things like I always get the mail. I like sifting through the mail and then delivering it to whoever in the office it's supposed to go to, because it gives me an idea of what is coming in. And if there's something that catches my eye, I set it aside and look at it first. Um, and then, you can't have a number of people having signing authority. And that's that's for quality assurance too. So I have the signing authority for almost all the accounts. There's a couple of exceptions where Brenda, who has worked for me since I think around 2006, has signing authority. She also has backup signing authority for the business, for our business accounts. But but there's still, with some banks will work with you on that, and others, especially the big commercial banks, they're much more difficult to navigate than the local banks because they don't have as much flexibility typically. Let's see, are there any other comments so far, Luke?
Yeah, a lot of people commenting on Jay's question of whether people are taking on new clients today.
Yeah. Good.
And then Laura had looks like statement slash question. Could a CPG transfer, say, 10 clients to an existing Guardian business, and the CPG be contracted with that agency for a specific amount for, say, a year, and do that for each set of 10 transfers until completed for continuity for clients?
Well, I'm not sure if it were me, 10 clients at a time would be a huge amount. Not sure that I'd be, if it were me, and I'm not saying I'm the person, I represent anybody else on this, but if it were me, taking on 10 clients at once would be about 7 or 8 too many. We'd have to spread it out. Um, because there's always the, paperwork and transitional stuff that has to happen with that. So, but in the way of a concept, that certainly is something to consider as a possible model. I'm certainly not going to toss it away because in some areas that might work well. It would be nice to be able to find new CPGCs who would want to take on new clients but need a little bit of hand holding, and would be willing to have a bit of hand holding to learn the ropes and everything. Unfortunately, we don't have enough guardians. Um, there's also the issue of the Medicaid, the low income guardianships. Um, and so, you have to limit that because you certainly don't make money off of that. And you don't have a business if you can't make it at least a certain amount of money. So I think that's something to throw out and have a discussion about. Are there any others, Luke?
Some other comments, but that's it as far as questions.
Okay. Why don't you do a few of the comments?
Um, so we have Claire shared fidelity is a nightmare. Um, uh, let's see, I'm seeing. Oh, did you put this one in? I'm wondering if there's a mechanism to post cases. Um, oh, interesting. To sorry, it's going. People are commenting and it's getting me out of order here. I'm wondering if there's a mechanism to post cases up for transfer in a given area like the listserv. Um, uh, Jason shared, has there ever been a conversation on collective bargaining for guardians regarding rates for Medicaid? Um, and I,
And I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm feeling that that implies we have any control over what the Medicaid rates are. Because it took, I don't know what, when they changed the Medicaid rates up to 235, it had been the 70s since they changed the Medicaid rates. So um, I'm not sure what collective bargaining might mean, but that's another discussion for another day. I'm not going to shoot it down or anything because it does pique my curiosity. Go ahead, Luke.
Karina shared, I subcontract with my CPGCs and they have their own clients, but everything is under Pacific Northwest guardianship. So if something happens, they can walk away with their clients. Debbie asked the question, are people buying tail insurance? Um,
I
let's
don't know
see.
what that is.
Okay.
Tail insurance?
I'll give some space for her to clarify. Chick shared for solo practices, no employees. The options are limited to finding another CPGC willing to be a successor, getting a court order naming the successor, getting successor access to clients' finances. Personally, I have had great difficulty finding anyone to take my most complicated guardianship, very labor intensive in parentheses. Um, Elizabeth shared, I think it is time for the legislature to raise the DSHS monthly allowance for Medicaid clients as a reduction to their participation to 470 from 235. Um, and then Debbie clarified when she said tail insurance, she said professional liability. And she said, if so, for how long after closing business do you have the professional liability insurance?
Okay, I think that last question is the question asked the insurance or somebody who knows about that type of insurance, because I personally wouldn't. I would think that um, I check with the insurance company, but I would think that once you get rid of your last client, that sounds tacky. Um, transfer your last client. Um, and close your business, that it wouldn't be necessary anymore because the insurance will is retroactive. At least ours is. Ours is retroactive all the way to starting the business, even though when I started the business, it was a different company. But it's a good question too. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about going a little more because we're getting kind of down to we have about 15 minutes left. Um, these are the things that I've done, and you might think about some others too, is um, talk with a business law and guardianship attorneys, two separate types of attorneys, regarding succession planning. I think that that's what I've done, and will continue to. I talk with the guardianship attorneys that I work with, and I've been talking with a business law attorney about the business aspect of things. And one thing that he told me regarding my business structure is one person has to be the owner, and then you have a business manager who handles the day-to-day things. But when the business owner is the person, if there's a tough decision to be made, that's the business owner is the person who makes it. Talk with a business advisor. I've actually through the Small Business Development Council, it costs nothing. If you're new to business, excellent. I did not start there. Once my business fell apart, when my business partner quit, I did contact them, and they were instrumental in helping me get back on my feet business wise. But talk to them about succession planning. I had a really good discussion with somebody who it was kind of amusing because she said, usually I'm helping people start businesses, not end businesses. But we had a really good discussion. Not that there were any decisions made, but we've batted around a lot of ideas, and it was real helpful just even to have that discussion. Talk with financial institutions you work with, for example, the local banks, regarding how to set up client accounts. So you have certain documents allowing for a smoother transition in an emergency. That if you have a corporation, what I was told is when it's a nonprofit, and let's say something happens to the president, then the other board members just appoint a new president. So there's still paperwork shuffle that has to happen, but it's a much smoother type of transition. With me, I'm the whole board at the moment, and uh, so it's a little more complicated. Um, but but I'm working on, how do I use that? And there's the possibility of using stock within the company because I'm an S corp. We have stock. Excuse me. And to have possible, somewhat of a ownership. And I haven't gotten there yet, but that's something else I would need to do more research on how that would look. Um, and but the nuts and bolts is um, with each bank or with each financial institution, there's going to be paperwork. That's all there is to it. Um, it's not going to go smoothly. Uh, just a smooth transition. It may go smoother than if you haven't planned, but it'll be a little rocky. I don't see any way of getting around it. I was at one local bank one day, and I was chatting with the person who was helping me open up a guardianship account, and it was just talking about it. And she took it upon herself to email her upper ups about what is needed, and then emailed me for that particular financial institution what they would like to see in order to make a transition much more smooth, which is great. And I'll be doing that with others as well. One of the issues I have is for clients who have Social Security. Because we're a for-profit agency, I am the power of attorney for these people. And Social Security does not allow for a secondary signer. Now, and they don't like it when I put the money into a guardianship account, which could have more than one signer, and not necessarily, but it could have. But so there, so what we're looking at is on the Guardian Institute. Guardian Institute is a Social Security approved Rep PE organization. We did that because there's such a need locally here to have another one. The one that's here is very difficult to work with. The other one that's here, but it's limited because we don't have a dedicated person. Leah manages that, in part of her time when she's not doing guardianship stuff. So we're looking at, and we needed to get past this conference first, but we're looking at hiring somebody to manage that program. We do have somebody who comes in and cuts checks, who does a very good job at that. And she only comes in a couple days a week, but she just whips those puppies out and it's good for the week. But to have somebody who actually manages that program, so Leah has more time on the guardianship side to do the guardian conservator side to do things, and then we could expand the program as well. And that would be part of that expansion would include any clients who only have Social Security as income. We would have the Guardian Institute be Rep PE. That would help my bookkeeper with his load of stuff he has to do, but also it's a backup plan, so that there is somebody who can, even though I'm signer for the Guardian Institute stuff too, because I'm president of Guardian Institute, the Guardian Institute can then appoint somebody else to be successor, whether vice president could be appointed or whatever, and have that signing authority fairly quickly. So that doesn't help with the ones that have other assets. And the like OPM and railroad pension do not have any kind of provision for that as well. Um, so it doesn't, it's going to be a multifaceted thing. Um, and yeah, some of these, I hate working with AARP. They can be, every once in a while, I get somebody who knows what they're doing, but most often they give me grief. And so that, there's going to be a lot of challenges to that. Start training key staff on tasks as you do that you do as a business owner, you as a business owner would do, and teach the task, but more importantly, explain why you do things a certain way. Because from the outside looking in, they may think, well, gosh, that seems more complicated than it needs to be. But if you get some background, if the employee gets some background as to why you've I've developed this process for whatever that task is, it helps them to understand there was an issue, there was a liability issue at some point, and this is how to avoid that and things like that. Have staff shadow you when you go to do financial tasks or set up conservator accounts or whatever. I have started naming all three guardians on our letters of office. And that's mainly because we work as a team, and it's been very frustrating to everybody, including me, that because only my name, it's a Bridge Builders Limited Mindi Blanchard principal, is they would only talk, doctors' offices and such would only talk to me. And I write letters that they could circulate saying that they have authority as CPGCs for all of our guardianship clients. But it doesn't always work well. So more recently, I'm putting on the letters of office all three of our names, and we're still early in the game on that, but I'm hoping that it really helps so that we don't have people insisting that they only can talk to me and I might not be available. Um, so any other comments,
Yeah.
questions?
So Debbie had shared, and this was, 6, 7 minutes ago. So I said, I've been hired as a case manager after transfer of a guardianship. Is a great option for transition for client and guardians. Elizabeth shared, I'm thinking there is a way for guardians to establish collective bargaining to provide health and life insurance and competitive wages. And then Jason shared, this has been a great presentation. Thank you.
Well, here's if there is an interest, I'd be willing to have periodic session planning virtual meetings um, to continue to discuss this and maybe put some things together. I plan to put all of these comments and even questions on our website in the what is that special thing you set up, Luke?
Yeah, so it's the Guardian Community Forum, which is
Yeah, the community forum.
yep, and there's a link to that in the lobby of the conference at the top for you to register for that.
So I plan to put up, have a forum on this, put up the information that I've gleaned today. And also, as I get more information, if you want to, let me know. Here's my contact information. Email me if you're interested in doing succession planning virtual meetings. It doesn't have to be frequent. But I would suggest maybe even quarterly with an agenda to look at that and see, because I think if we discuss it, different areas of the state are a little bit different, but I think overall we all have the same issues, and we can develop things if we get together. Um, so are there any other questions or anything before we end? Because
Yeah.
we're just about
Yep.
there.
Yep. And so Elizabeth shared, or Beth shared, yes, that would be very helpful. Wendy, yes, this would be very helpful. Um, uh, Elizabeth shared, Mindy, this is a great talk. I think we all need to be thinking about succession planning for the benefit and well-being of our clients. Some thank yous, some I would like that as far as the quarterly succession plan meetings. Uh, a one share or Tamiko said, I have corporate resolutions for my employees that gives them authority to work on behalf of my agency in case whoever is insistent. Valerie shared, I'd be very interested in those planning meetings. I would like to be retired in 5 years and want to make a smooth transition. And then some more thank yous. And that's what we got.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited about the possibility of really coordinating all of this and seeing if we can come up with something so that those who are new aren't having to wade through all this stuff without having the experience behind them.
Awesome. Thanks, Mindy. And so we're going to wrap up the first session. We're going to come back in about 15 minutes for a working with a client's difficult family with Stephanie Parker. If you could, you'll see in that same place where you clicked on the link for this session, there will be an option to fill out some feedback for Mindy. And so if you complete that, that would be really helpful. And we'll plan on seeing you here in about 15 minutes. Talk to you soon.